Hello and welcome to an episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews. My name is Jacob, and today, as you can probably tell, we're doing something a little bit different. So rather than me talking about one specific figure in particular, I've decided to do a video showcasing my current room setup and collection. So the main reason I've decided to do this is recently I did a full-on room cleanup and I somewhat rearranged my setup here. So I really wanted to show that off, as well as kind of talk you through some of my favorite figures around here. So this is actually not my entire collection. This is probably only about half of it, if that. And the main reason for this is because, if you guys have been following, you may have heard I moved about a year ago, a bit less actually, but give or take a few months. And I still have the majority of my stuff at my old place there. But my favorite stuff I brought over here, and I've kind of had a bit of a rotation going on between the two places, bringing stuff in and taking stuff back, and you know. So, where should we begin? Let's start off over here. This is my main workspace. We've got my desk here, my computer, my lovely big TV screen that I use for video editing and YouTube and all that good stuff. Whenever I'm filming unboxings and stuff as of late, this is what I see basically in front of me, except for there's a camera usually positioned and all that stuff. Over here, we got my little table, because I need a nice empty table to film some figure reviews, and this is primarily what I use to take photos of figures for my Instagram, so the Atomic Vinyl Reviews Instagram page. And you might recognize I generally put figures up on this little, whatever you call it, plastic doohickey, and take some nice, really evenly lit shots. Over here I got my desk fan, very important when living in Australia, because it gets, pardon my French, but fucking hot here sometimes, so this is very important. Here we've got one of my favorite new figures, that is the American Werewolf in London Wolf by NECA. So this thing is really cool, I love this thing. Here we got some just little figures I always like to have off to the side. My Monster Arts Gamera figures. I'm a huge Gamera fan, naturally, and I love my little setup here. Up here we got my Megalon figures, all three of them in this sort of 6-7 inch scale. A little Hedorah, Jet Jaguar Bandai figure, and this is my prototype custom Hedorah medallion. So this is actually something that eventually, when I get off my ass and actually finish them, I will have these to sell. So I made a little sculpture of Hedorah, and I made resin copies of it. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you'd have seen these beforehand, but this is, as you can see, white resin. This is sculpted and painted by me, and I'm going to be making a bunch of these, at least that's the plan, and selling these to you guys. So do stay tuned for that. I really hope to get to that sometime in the next few months, fingers crossed. And up here, we got some more cool stuff. We got my Mechagodzillas, my Bandai Mechagodzilla 1970, what is it, 75 figure? That's right. We got the X Plus D4Real version of that. We got the NECA Ultimate Big Chap figure. Really, really cool version. I'm a huge Alien fan, as you can see, with my huge alien over there. Come on, get in focus. There we go. But we'll get to that in a second. And now this thing, I don't think I've put up the video of this one yet, but this is actually meant to be a tissue box cover. You meant to put this big 1954 Godzilla thing over a tissue box and then pull the tissues out of his mouth. I haven't actually found a tissue box that fits it very well yet, but I just like having it as a little Godzilla statue up here. I think it looks awesome there. And I indeed speak fluent sarcasm. My girlfriend just put that there for the lols. So if we kind of go over here, this is probably the piece de resistance of my entire collection. This big boy right here. So this is my Kyoto Shin Godzilla figure, and this thing is really difficult to actually find a good spot for, but luckily he seems to fit quite well here, although I would prefer him not to be so backlit. Unfortunately, it's quite bright outside, so he's a little difficult to see from that angle, but I love this thing. This thing is amazing. This is the most expensive thing I own, and one of the biggest figures in my entire collection, certainly in this room. We got some pretty big ones up there, but this guy, he really dominates, especially this massive tail here. That tail is really what makes putting this guy anywhere really difficult. But I do like him here because he is nice and close to me, especially when I'm sitting at my desk. I can just turn over, take a good look at him, especially at nighttime when, again, he's not so backlit because I actually have lights on him from the inside of the room rather than coming in from outside. And over here we also got one of my other all-time favorite figures. That's the Yuji Sakai X Plus modeling collection Godzilla 1991 figure from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. One of my favorite versions of Godzilla, especially the Heisei era. I really love this suit, and it just looks like it came out of the movie. Again, I apologize, these are all pretty backlit, so it's kind of hard to see. Down here we got a couple of other cool figures, some more Gamera ones, some more 54 Godzillas, the NECA, and the really overpriced Bandai poster color figure, or whatever it's called. We've got this Gamera here, which is actually a bootleg kit. It's from Thailand, which I put together and slightly modified as well. I think it's a really cool figure for what it is. But it used to be a Bandai vinyl that they turned into a model kit. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that guy there. Here we got a, oh, what's it called? I always forget what these guys are called. Where is it? Here we go, Marmot. We got the Marmot Gigan from Final Wars. I really dig this thing. I have a couple of Marmot figures. They're really overpriced, but I love them. Whenever I can actually find one for a decent price, I try and go for it. And this is one of my favorites there. We also got this guy here, which is the Ichiban Show Godzilla 2021 figure from Godzilla vs. Kong. Although the paint on his mouth is hideous. Oh god, sorry, Marmot. Although the paint on his mouth here is hideous, this is one of my favorite sculpts of the Legendary Pictures Godzilla. Especially the spines on this thing are fucking beautiful, honestly. Again, it's kind of hard to put it in a more displayable place, because whenever I try and have one figure with a lot of focus on it, it's always overshadowed by all the other ones that I have. But I'm not complaining about that. I am really lucky to have the amount of figures that I do. I'm really happy about that. Down here we got Sega Gamera figure, the Showa Gamera, and a couple other NECA figures here. Over here we got little baby Shin Godzilla, and he actually scales pretty damn perfectly with the big Shin Godzilla here, so I do like to have these two close together. So, got the X Plus 25 centimeter series, or large monster series, Shin Godzilla Kamata-kun. Here we got a, this is a model kit, actually, I forget who made it. This is, again, the 75 Mechagodzilla Billiken. Sorry, it's, I can actually see it clearly off camera, but it's not focusing on that writing, but it says Billiken. Got my Billiken 75 Mechagodzilla. It's basically a 30 centimeter scale X Plus of that suit, and it is beautiful. I really dig this one. I actually have a video on my channel, if you guys don't already know, of how I made this finger on his hand, because he came without a finger, basically. So he was missing that thumb there, and I used a really clever method of actually cloning that thumb out of one of his other fingers. And yeah, there's a video on that on my channel. It's a really good method if you guys need to like clone parts for missing parts for figures. It's really cheap for making really small parts, so it's a good method. So I would look that video up if you have a figure that needs a part cloned, for example. It's good for monster arts figures if you lose a piece, for example. Down here I got some of the Playmates Godzilla versus Kong figures, the big ones. I really love these things, and they're all over the place in Kmart here in Australia in the stores. It's amazing, because here in Australia, having Godzilla figures in stores, in a physical store, it's like never happened. It's like something that's so alien to me. And now they're just a regular occurrence. You just go into Kmart and these things are just there. It's going to be sad when that's no longer the case, when these things become less popular, but for now, I tried to buy up a couple and I got them here. As well as the Mecha Godzilla here, and of course we got my beautiful Gibson SG. If you guys are interested in guitar related stuff, I have another channel called Jacob's House of Rock. I haven't uploaded there in a while, but I do cover guitar related music stuff there. So if you guys are interested in that side of my life, go look there. But we can kind of, we can slide her over to the side and we can see more of my collection here. We got the 1984 Godzilla X Plus 30 centimeter series figure here. I'm still genuinely heartbroken that I wasn't able to get one of the Yuji Sakai modeling collection versions of the 84 suit, because I did pre-order it when it was last released a couple of years back, and because of the whole virus that shall not be named incident that ruined the world for a few years, the shipping price escalated phenomenally by the time the pre-order actually was ready to ship. So I had to cancel because I was not paying over $500 bloody for one X Plus figure. It's just not on. And so I have been genuinely pissed off about that ever since, because that figure, the Yuji Sakai version, is so much more gorgeous than this guy here. Not that this is a bad figure, but that one looks like it walked right out of the movie. This one looks like a figure. I don't know how else to put it. Same deal with this X Plus 30 centimeter 1954 figure here. It's a great figure, but the Yuji Sakai modeling collection one, again, far superior, and I've actually got one on pre-order again because the Godzilla store had an exclusive release of that coming up later in the year. So fingers crossed that the same stupid thing doesn't happen that happened with this guy, because I really don't want to cancel on that one, because it's my like holy grail figure, because I'm a huge fan of the original Godzilla suit in particular. Here again we've got a Marmot figure. This is a Marmot, I think Godzilla 2000 figure, and done in the lovely metallic blue. I really love the very expressive, vivid metallic colors that they use on some of these figures, and just how stylized they are. They're a lot of fun. Over here we got my 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters X Plus Large Monster Series figure. I love this thing, but I think they sculpted the hips way too thick on this one. Way too thick from the front. So I always like to have it positioned side on because it looks a lot better from the side. I was on the fence for a while, but I've decided to order the 2020 version, Large Monster Series one, because I just think the sculpt looks a lot better, and I think it doesn't have the same issue of the bloody wide hips that this thing has. Over here, we've got the big NECA 2014 Godzilla here. This thing is amazing. I wish I had it more prominently displayed, but again, space is kind of tight at the moment. So he's kind of put in the corner, and the reason I put him there is because his tail can pop off, so he actually can fit somewhere. So not the worst place for him, all things considered, but I really dig this thing. And I'm actually thinking about modifying him to be the 2019 version, because somewhere in a cupboard back in my other place, locked up, I have a second version of this guy, so it wouldn't really mean that I'd be losing out if I did turn this guy into 2019 version. What I was actually planning on doing is using this guy's spines and maybe his feet, and replacing the parts on this 2014 figure to actually modify him. But once I bought this one, because this is actually the second one of these that I own, I felt so bad because it's such a good figure in its own way. I know it's like a cheap toy type of Godzilla figure, but I still really dig it, so I'd be heartbroken to actually go through with the process of destroying this thing in order to modify this thing, so who knows. That project's kind of on the fence as of now because of that. Anyhows, moving on to the next shelf up, we got some Showa figures. So I got this kind of classic Showa lineup here. I should probably move this Marmot guy again. I bloody love this thing. Actually, he can live up here because there's a space up here, so he doesn't block these guys. I really dig this figure. It's just so simple and elegant. All the lines just flow really beautifully. He's stylized just perfectly enough. There's something about that Gigan that I really love, because Gigan is one of my favorite monster designs in general, and especially just this figure of it really embodies that kind of spacey, stylized 60s, 70s vibe of this kind of design that I just adore. So this Marmot here is one of my favorite Gigan figures. But down here we got the 30 centimeter series Gigan from X Plus. I don't know how I acquired so many X Plus figures, to tell you guys, because I never set out to be an X Plus collector, because they're very expensive, even for somebody like me who collects, you know, Monster Arts figures and X Plus stuff. To me, they're just normally very overpriced, and I like to think I'm very selective about it. But over the years, you kind of build up. So, warning to anyone out there, just being like, oh, I might just get this one X Plus figure. That's not how it works. When you go X Plus, you don't go back. Anyhows, yeah, I adore these guys here. So they got the classic sort of Showa lineup here. Got some more Showa X Plus up here, but I really dig these guys because this is a little different. So instead of just having Godzilla figures, I really like that I have a whole shelf full up with some classic figures. They got the lineup from Godzilla vs. Megalon with this Megalon here, and again, I love this design for exactly the same reasons I love the Gigan design. It's just so out there in space age and just unique and cool. I don't know, there's something about the monsters in the Godzilla universe that are just so unique and awesome that they just stand out so much compared to like the modern generic sort of insectoid, gory, generic Cloverfield, Muto type monsters that they put in like every movie. You can just think of countless sort of generic modern monsters that they have in video games and stuff, and they just really don't compare to just kind of the uniqueness that the classic Toho kaiju had, especially Gigan and Megalon. I think they're fantastic designs. Over here, also got Jet Jaguar from that lineup from Godzilla vs. Megalon. Although this is not an X Plus, this is just the Diamond Select Bank. So he's a money bank technically, but he scales pretty well with them. So I like to have him here. And we got a Baragon figure here, as well as our beautiful Destroy All Monsters version of Anguirus. I absolutely love this thing. Also one of my all-time favorite figures in my collection, because this thing looks like he stepped out of the movie, and he's just one of my favorite kaiju of all time. I'm a huge Anguirus fan, and this thing is just gorgeous. Again, it's one of those ones that's really difficult to put on a shelf and display because he's so big. His tail is very long. He's also really short because he's on all fours, and so he's kind of difficult to put around. But luckily I managed to slot him in. I mean, he's like just barely clinging on, as you can see, but hey, it works. It still works. This, again, one of my most prized figures in my collection, that being the 1964 Godzilla from X Plus. 30 centimeter series, of course. So this thing is slightly stylized, I believe. He's a little bit, yeah, just more vicious looking, I think, than the actual monster in the film. But there's just something about this sculpt that I've always loved. And when I first saw it, this was my holy grail figure for a very long time, until I was very, very fortunate to actually pick up one of these secondhand, and I've treasured it ever since. I mean, just look at that. I love the teeth and the claws, and just this something about the Showa Godzillas, in particular, just certain suits in that era that are just iconic, and you really can't beat the 64. It was really the last of those absolutely menacing Godzillas from the Showa era. Just a true classic. Over here again we have that Gigan I already talked about. And here we have probably one of the best representations of the Jurassic Park T-Rex that's on the market. So this is the Nanmu T-Rex, one of their T-Rex versions. And I'm a huge fan of in particular, the original Jurassic Park, the Rexy from that movie, and I'm always on the lookout for a really good, accurate figure of Rexy. Originally, I had the Papo T-Rex. That was my best representation. Then I moved up to the Rebor Killer Queen figure, and that was their their Jurassic Park T-Rex equivalent, but this thing from Nanmu, this one is really, really up there. I also have one from W Dragon, I think that's what the brand's called, that's also really accurate to the Jurassic Park T-Rex, but again, that's in my old place, so I might bring it over here eventually, might swap them out at some point, but right now this one is my current most accurate Jurassic Park T-Rex. Here we've got the band Presto, Godzilla 1954 figure. Really, really cool figure. Pretty accurate to the film version because this is a Yuji Sakai sculpt. Although I think it's a little bit toy-like with the way the teeth are done in that blocky sort of Bandai style, and it kind of has a lot of seam lines and is a little janky looking. So I'm really looking forward to actually getting the proper X Plus figure from the Yuji Sakai modeling collection. Behind here we have got the Large Monster Series X Plus Rodan from the 1956 movie, Rodan. Again, I am a huge fan of that movie in particular, and that design is my all-time favorite version of Rodan. So I like to have him quite prominently displayed, even though he's unfortunately kind of at the back. But he's kind of difficult to display as well with the big wings, and he tends to topple over if he's not supported well enough. He does stand okay on his own, but unfortunately I don't really have a better place for him at the moment. So moving up, we got the huge quarter scale NECA figure of the original Alien Big Chap figure, representing that classic HR Giga design beautifully. I adore this thing, and I'm really glad that I can have it so prominently sort of displayed up here. Just check it out. Really cool. Look at those teeth. Really cleanly done. And compared to the smaller version of this guy, the 7-inch scale figure, this quarter scale figure really knocks that one out of the park detail-wise. Although it's so dark, sometimes it's kind of hard to make out the details without sufficient lighting, but you know, that's kind of just the case with all Alien figures, to be honest. And next to it, we got the huge Mezco Kong. I was on the fence about getting this one for a long time because it's not an official like movie Kong. It's not any of the actual movie designs. It's its own sort of generic Kong design that they got from a graphic novel of some kind. But just as a figure, it's got such a great presence and it's just so big and cool that I really am glad that I do have it in my collection. It's a really worthwhile piece, even if it isn't a specific movie Kong. Although I wish it was like a 33 Kong in this scale, done in this style. That would be incredible. Down here we got another Yuji Sakai sculpt. That is the 1995 Godzilla. So that's the one from Godzilla vs. Destroyer Burning Godzilla. One of my all-time favorite versions of Godzilla, and overall this figure is amazing, but I have a few nitpicks with it, that pretty much being the burning patterns on them. They're painted on, so this isn't the version with the clear orangey plastic. This is the painted on version. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as convincing as it could be. For example, the Monster Arts figure is far more convincing because it does have the clear plastic patches. And I'm kind of bothered by the eyes. If you look at his eyes, he's got the cool red irises, but then the kind of area around his eyes is almost sort of this yellowy white color. Whereas in the film, it really just kind of looks almost all red, and it's glowing more, and it's kind of more intense looking. The way these eyes look right now, he looks a little derpy, so I've been so tempted to go in and paint like a darker red around his eyes to make them look more fearsome, kind of like the Monster Arts figure has as well. But I feel really bad messing with a Yuji Sakai, you know, X Plus figure. It's a very pricey figure, so like I could do it. I'm fairly skilled when it comes to, you know, figure modification and artsy stuff in general. It's just kind of the principle of the thing. Next to it, we got the Rocket Pro Gamera 1995 figure. This is from Gamera Garden of the Universe, and this is basically the equivalent of the X Plus version of that figure, or that Gamera, and it is gorgeous. I really dig this thing. It's my favorite Gamera design, and one of the best figures of him. Looks really great here, especially around all these other figures. Continuing on, we have the Bandai 1991 Godzilla figure here. So this is one of my more recent acquisitions. He's really cool. He looks a lot better than a lot of the previous Bandai Heisei Godzillas, I think. Here we got the Gabra figure from YMSF. This thing's really cool. He's a really derpy, weird-looking kaiju and really difficult to get in figure form, which is why I have this guy. Over here we got another Marmot figure, that being the Tokyo SOS or 2003 Godzilla, done in this lovely glossy jet black color, some lovely metallic highlights here and there. I think it's really cool. I don't know, something about these Marmot figures I think is just really awesome, these stylized looking figures. Behind him we got, of course, the, I believe it's Diamond Select King Ghidorah 1991 statue, which should pair with the 1991 Godzilla statue that they have, which I also have, but again, not in this room presently, so it's at my old place as well. Over here, we got the X Plus 30cm series Kiryu figure. I absolutely love this thing. It's a really beautiful representation of what is a really beautifully designed Mechagodzilla. Look at that. Really, really cool. And you can tell it's the 2003 version, the Tokyo SOS version, because of his hand here being that drill hand that kind of, you know, curls up into a drill. It's a bit different from his normal hand here, as well as his shoulder cannons here being that more gunmetal gray color rather than the blue from the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla film that came out the year before. So these ones, they're all kind of just slotted in here almost randomly. It really depends on how they fit, because a lot of, with Godzilla figures, you really have to bear in mind the length of their tails and how they're going to fit with other figures. So these are kind of here for no other reason, just that they look aesthetically nice together and that their tails and general body size allow them to fit here. Over here we got my SH Monster Arts Godzilla vs. Destroyer set. So we got Godzilla himself with his beautiful spiral atomic beam, the red spiral beam. I'm really glad I picked up the Rodan, the Heisei Rodan from Monster Arts, if and only if, because of this beam here. It's just such a great and unique accessory that you really need to have the full experience of this guy here. And as you can tell by the white spines on his tail, this is the original release, so the less glossy one. Although I do wish I got the ultimate release, because he does have those really cool steam accessories that you kind of put around his body to make him look like he's so hot that steam is literally flowing off of him. So I do wish that I could get my hands on that figure one day, but at the moment, getting this one or even that re-release is really, really difficult. Up here we got some King Kong Escapes figures, that being this, again, a really new addition to my collection, the Gorosaurus Bandai vinyl. This is the exclusive figure from the Godzilla store, which I got. Really cool, really movie accurate as well. I love this thing. And of course the I think it's Raimundo figures actually. They're not YMSF, but they're sold through YMSF, the same guy who sells YMSF figures. The Raimundo Mechanicong and the Kong from King Kong Escapes. We got a vintage Bandai vinyl of the 1956 Rodan. Again, my favorite design of Rodan. But probably one of my other favorite designs of Rodan is this guy here, and that's the Monsterverse Rodan. So here's the X Plus Large Monster Series version of him, and by God, if you're seeing all the wires that I have like wrapped around his neck and his legs there and his stand, know that that is because the stand he comes with is a absolute piece of crap. It does not hold him very well at all, so I had to really tie the thing together with wires and tie him onto it to feel secure with having him be up there. And I actually have the metal pillars that he's kind of standing on his stand. Actually, they go through the wood slats here in this thing to secure him even more, so I'm not worried about him falling off anymore. But definitely, if his stand didn't have all the wires on it, he would fall off on even the flattest, most stable ground with the slightest bump. It is a really bad stand, and in my unboxing, I did not stress enough how bad it is, because I hadn't tested it as of yet, but it's really bad. Anyhow, on a more positive note, Speaking of that Rodan, you might have noticed my whole backdrop here is actually a big cardboard poster of the Monsterverse Rodan, and that's because this is part of a big cardboard display which I got from my local cinema. Actually, it wasn't even my local cinema, it was like the cinema off in like the CBD, more closer to the center of the city. So I had to actually take this on the train all the way home. But I ended up buying this after the release of Godzilla King of the Monsters because they auction off their memorabilia cardboard display things, or the posters and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm really glad I got my hands on this. This is my favorite one of those posters because we also had Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla done in the same style. But I really love the Monsterverse Rodan. I think he came out really cool, really faithful to a classic Rodan design, and just I loved him in the movie. So I kind of have this permanently as my backdrop here, and it's awesome. Over here we got some more YMSF figures. We got Ebirah from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. We got Manda, again looking really cool. Love YMSF figures. They're like Bandai vinyls, but just boutique and more fancy and of more obscure kaiju. Well, they're also very expensive though, but they, on the bright side, their secondary market retail value never really goes down, so there's that benefit to it. Over here again we have a Kumanga or Spiga. Yeah, another great figure of a more obscure kaiju. And here I got my 1991 Monster Arts King Ghidorah figure. Looking really grand here, really cool. King Ghidorah is one of those kaiju that you really have to display properly because of those big wings. And you can see I got a few of them up here. They're really sort of top shelf type figures, if that makes sense. So I'm looking really grand here with his big golden wings. I love it. Next to him we have the X Plus Large Monster Series Hedorah. This is one of his sort of earlier forms, so this isn't his final form. And this is actually like a squishy version, so he's actually made of a more soft, rubbery material. Really cool. Next to him I got this beauty. So this is another Nanmu figure. This is the V-Rex figure that Nanmu put out. Isn't it freaking gorgeous? I mean, Rebor's one was great and all, but damn, this thing looks like it just walked out of the movie. This was probably one of my favorite figures of 2021. So yeah, I really dig this thing. And up here we got more 56 Rodans, got the YMSF figure on the right hand side, and we got the Playmates figure on the left hand side. One of the few Playmates figures that I actually have on display here, because they can be kind of hit and miss, but that's actually one I really dig because it really takes influence, I believe, from this one here, which is the vintage Bandai. Paint-wise, it's almost identical, and even the sculpt has that same derpiness. I know. If you look at my my Instagram, the AVR Atomic Vinyl Reviews Instagram page, you'll actually see that I have some comparison photos between these two, and you can really see the influence there. Over here, again, two of my Centerpiece figures in my collection. That's whoa. Sorry guys, I knocked over the bass behind me. Got a bass guitar over here. Yeah, gotta be careful with that. But over here, we have the X Plus Large Monster Series 1968 King Ghidorah figure from Destroy All Monsters. This guy is beautiful. I absolutely adore this thing. I'm a huge fan of just the Showa era in general, and especially King Ghidorah from the Showa era I love. Now this is a real centerpiece figure, and the only kind of downside with him was that when I got him, one of his wings were damaged, the joint specifically, so I actually have a whole video up on how I repaired that. So if you guys have a similar issue, I would watch that video. It goes into a fair amount of detail on how I repaired that joint there. I hear that a lot of people have a similar issue with their figures because it's quite fragile, the wing joints. But yeah, look at this thing. He just towers above everybody here, and it's a great figure. I hope one day to actually have a couple of Large Monster Series Destroy All Monsters figures of other kaiju to kind of pair with him. But at the moment, just cool on his own there. And here, another fantastic Yuji Sakai sculpt next to him. It's the GMK Godzilla, or the 2001 Godzilla from Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Attack. All Out Attack, sorry. My voice is honestly getting tired from this video. It's a lot longer than I was anticipating, because I thought this would just be a quick overview, maybe like 10, 15, 20 minutes at most, but this is probably going on for much longer, so I'm talking a lot. Sorry guys. But this is the Yuji Sakai modeling collection version of that Godzilla, and again, it's just beautiful. Everything Yuji Sakai touches is just pure kaiju gold, especially this guy here. I mean, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous thing. Looks like he just walked out of the movie. Fantastic. That detailing, that just flow of detail across his body, the eyes, the teeth, the spines. Love it. And now we finally come to let me open this up to get rid of that glare. Wrong way. Okay. The glass cabinet of Monster Arts figures. I've rearranged these as of late, but at the top we got the Showa era. So not only do we have Monster Arts figures, I've got a couple of Revoltech figures in there, and also a YMSF Kong in the back. So, of course, we got the Monster Arts, the 64 Godzilla, we got the 62, the 54, all of them. Phenomenal, I love these things. I'm just a huge fan of Monster Arts in general. They just can do no wrong. Well, they can, but we'll get to that in more specific figures later on. But got the Revoltech Baragon here, looking really charming. The Monster Arts 1974 Mechagodzilla, great little figure. Over here we got also the Gigan Showa figure from Revoltech. These ones, the Revoltech figures in particular, are really quite pricey these days, so I'm really glad I actually got fairly decent deals for these when I did. And back there again we have the 56 Rodan, which again, my favorite Rodan design and one of the better Rodan figures of that particular design. Although he's kind of, again, I wish I could display him a little better. I had to kind of squish him in the back, unfortunately, because there's just too many of these figures that really sort of paired nicely together, so I couldn't really have room for them, unfortunately. But moving on, we got my mid-Heisei era shelf of Monster Arts figures. So of course we got Space Godzilla, Mogira, Mecha Godzilla, we got the 94 Mecha Godzilla, I think, and we got the birth version, which I just put as a generic Godzilla, Heisei era Godzilla here. So technically it's the 1995 Burning Godzilla suit, but just painted up to look like a normal Heisei Godzilla. And then we have the Mothra and the Heisei era Rodan. So these look absolutely great together. They scale beautifully. Oh yeah, and the Mothra Lava, I can't forget that. They scale beautifully and they look awesome together. It's one of my favorite little shelves in my collection because it's just such a diverse group of kaiju. You got mechas, you got this weird crystal-y Godzilla thing, you got the bright Mothra, the nice red Rodan, the little brown caterpillar. It's a good group. Good group. When we move down here, we got our Millennium shelf. So we got our Godzilla from the Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla movie. We got Kiryu from Godzilla Tokyo SOS. We got our Final Wars Gigan. This is another recent acquisition in my collection. I had the original release, like an idiot. I sold it, but then I had to rebuy this re-release because I'm trying to be a completionist of these Monster Arts figures now. But back in the day, I was kind of deceived into being like, well, you have a lot of figures, maybe you should sell some. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should, like an idiot. But I had to get him back. He's such a great figure. Of course, we got another GMK Godzilla 2001, and we got this guy here. It's a shame that he's kind of squished in the back again, because this is one of my favorite figures in my entire collection, and a really important milestone figure. That is the original release of the 2000 Millennium, get out of the way, the 2000 Millennium Godzilla from Monster Arts. And this is the figure that really skyrocketed my collection, because when I saw this guy in a store, it was actually Toy World on Queen Street Mall here in Brisbane City. That store no longer exists. It's been moved. But I saw this figure there. It was probably the only Monster Arts figure I've ever seen in a physical store. And after I saw it, I just couldn't resist. I had to buy him. And this was at a time when I was only really collecting Bandai vinyls and just really, really, cheap Godzilla figures, because at the time I never spent over $100 on a figure. Until this guy, and after this one, I fell in love with the Monster Arts line, and now, I have bloody X Plus figures. So it's all because of this gorgeous little bastard here that I've thrown all this money at all these figures. But I love that thing. It's, again, to this day, one of my all-time favorite figures. It's not movie accurate, but it's Yuji Sakai's own concept sculpt, because he actually did the concept art for that film, and they modified his design for the final film. But I really love his version as well. It's a beautiful figure. And again, sorry you can't see it, but it's there. Okay, we reached the Monster Arts Monsterverse shelf. So the Legendary Pictures Monsterverse shelf. We got our 2019 Godzilla, our Kong, our Burning Godzilla, our 2014 Godzilla. We got some 3D printed Muto figures, our Rodan and our Mothra. It's all here. So unfortunately, as much as I wanted to have these on the more high shelves, because of all this other cool stuff, I really had to put it kind of low down here. So sorry, Monsterverse. But there are ones even lower, and it bugs me because I love these ones just as much. And we got our Reiwa era Godzilla figures here. So we got the two anime Godzillas on either side. We got the Godzilla Earth one over here. We got our Godzilla Singular Point, Godzilla Ultima over here, and arguably Shin Godzilla is very anime-esque as well, being directed by Hideaki Anno, who created Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, I also do actually own the Godzilla Filius version of this guy, so the one without the beard that's done in a more green tone, which is represented by this little baby thing here. Whoopsies. So I have that one as well, but that's in my old place as well. And I do have the repaint. So the re-release, special color version of this dude here as well, but that's in my old place as well as two other versions of Shin Godzilla. So I have the original release as well as the one, the Atomic Blast version where he's got the purple spines and all that good stuff. But I brought over this particular version just because I feel the detail comes out the best on this figure. This is the statue frozen version. And of course we got Kamata-kun and Shinagawa-kun. I really wish there were more figures of these guys, and I wish these two were bigger, because they made them scale with the adult Shin Godzilla, but honestly, I would have loved if they just did full-scale Monster Arts figures of both of these. That would have made me so happy, especially Kamata-kun, but oh well. Down here, just because I couldn't really fit this guy up on the Heisei era shelves, and this guy's just kind of doesn't really fit anywhere technically. I checked these two here. So we got our big Batra Lava. I love this thing. It's an awesome big chunky figure, really imposing, really colorful. And again, we got the Atomic Blast or whatever version, the Comic-Con exclusive version of the original 94 Monster Arts Godzilla, or the Meltdown version. And these are really cool down near the bottom of my shelf, but not quite, because at the very bottom we got the big Star Race Kong figure, if and only if, because this shelf is taller and this guy doesn't have a tail, so he can kind of fit in here really well. So I put him down there. Got a Playmates Kong, and we got a, what's his name? Godzilla from 1954 film done in Bandai form. All good stuff. So that's my Monster Arts shelf, and it's still got room to grow, as you can see here. So yeah, I already have figures planned to be shoved in this case at some point that are on their way, and a couple that I really wish that I could have in here, such as the adult Imago Batra, which I do not own in my collection, and I hope they do a re-release. And I really really freaking hope they do a re-release of the Mecha King Ghidorah figure, because I only have the 1991 here. Down here, what do we got down here? We got some more MonsterVerse figures. We got the King Ghidorah figure. This big bad boy. And I only recently put him back up on display because for almost the entire time I've actually lived here, I've had him in storage because he's such a pain to get standing. He's really top heavy. His wings are massive, so he barely fits on the shelf. Especially when you're trying to balance him with other figures and stuff. It's really hard to find room for him anywhere, as you can see. And his tails tend to pop off all the time, and his legs don't really support his weight all that well. And another nitpick I have about him is his necks are too thick, his heads are also too big, and they're not accurate at all. So I actually have pre-ordered a bunch of replacement 3D printed heads. So hopefully they'll arrive one day later in the year, and then I'll be able to paint them up and replace his heads with some more accurate MonsterVerse looking King Ghidorah heads, because I really like the MonsterVerse design of King Ghidorah, especially his faces. I think they were done really well. They were really expressive and looked really cool. I was kind of pissed off that we don't really have any decent figures within an affordable price range that are actually accurate to the movie, because my limit is pretty much Monster Arts prices for a King Ghidorah figure of that kind. So, and that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but the only other figures we gotta buy, like Spiral Studio or any of those like other huge massive King Ghidorah figures that are like by these weird boutique manufacturers that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So this guy here was pretty much my limit for a King Ghidorah figure of this magnitude, and I was pissed off that he was not screen accurate. So this is my little rant there. I got some of my custom buildings. I have a series on my channel from way back when I was building these custom buildings to display my figures with, so I brought some of them back out for this little display here. This is actually a bootleg hyper modeling series Mothra. And over here, of course, we have the Monster Arts Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. I kind of use this version just because he has the blue on his spine, so he kind of stands out a bit more, and the more aggressive looking clawed hands. Just to clarify though, I should add that I actually do love the Monster Arts King Ghidorah figure here. I do have my nitpicks with it, but overall, just the presence of this thing is really cool. I mean, look at that wingspan. It's really impressive in its own way, but again, I do have some nitpicks with it. Regardless, I like my little Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah display here. Okay, moving down, we got some more fairly recent acquisitions to my collection. Well, at least this guy here. I got this one last year, but I haven't actually put out the unboxing of it for so long. So that's a future video, even though it's a really old one from my last place. So we got the big Monster Arts Biollante figure. This is the special color version. This is an amazing figure. Big investment, but a freaking amazing figure. And I think no Monster Arts collection is complete without one. I mean, look at her. Fantastic. Ah, that's so cool. Again, I have a bunch of shots of her on my Atomic Vinyl Reviews Instagram page, so do check that out. Just for any of these figures in general, I tried to do a little archive there of some nice HD photos of these guys that, again, I take on this table in this nice white neutral lighting to kind of get a really cool look at all these figures. So here we got my newest Monster Arts figure, that being the Godzilla 1989 figure. This one I freaking love. I think it's honestly Monster Arts' best Heisei Godzilla figure, and I was already absolutely in love with their birth version figure, for example, or the Burning Godzilla. I love that one, but you know, after spending some time with this one, I freaking love it. Although technically I would say that the Kyoku, or whatever it's called, the bigger version with the lights, music, and sound here is probably objectively better. But I kind of consider this its own sort of thing. But out of the typical 6-inch scale lineup of Monster Arts figures, this is my favorite Heisei figure. And I really hope they make a 91 as well, because I can imagine it'll be just as good as this thing. I don't know, there's just something about that face. How can you not love that face? Those beautiful brown eyes. Yeah, really dig this thing. Okay, moving down, we got kind of an assortment of figures down here. We got some new Bandai Movie Monster Series Gamera figures. We got the Gamera 1995 as well as the 1999 Gamera 3 figure here. And we got the Iris figure. So these are all pretty new additions to my collection. I got another Mechagodzilla, again from 1975, Terror of Mechagodzilla. This is done in sort of like a teal metallic blue. And we got the War of the Gargantuans YMSF figures up the back there. And we got a vintage Bandai Anguirus figure. Really dig this thing, it's really cute. And it's got the original tag as well. So that's really cool. This is one of those made in Japan vintage ones, again, just like that 56 Rodan. So these are really cool. And down here, I got the, what was that movie again? Dear God, I completely forgot, but I think it was that Spielberg movie where the guy goes with the whole virtual world thing, and they had Mechagodzilla. I'm having a blank. Again, I've been filming for quite a long time, and talking for so long that I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit. But you guys know what this is. That Mechagodzilla, it's that third-party figure that we got from AliExpress. We got the YMSF 1964 Godzilla. This was the unpainted version, because it was a little cheaper. I love this thing. The pose that it's in is really cool and dynamic, and it's a great sculpt. Although probably not best seen from this angle, unfortunately. And here we have like an X Plus Legion, Mother or Queen Legion figure. This one's really cool. It actually scales really well with the Monster Arts Gamera 2 figure. It's not like the typical X Plus figures. It's not in either the large monster series or the 30cm series range. It's kind of like it's in its own sort of thing. It's one of the older X Plus figures that were just kind of weird, more generic figures. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a great figure, and if you can get your hands on one of these, I recommend it. And over here, we got some more assorted figures. I got the YMSF 1989 Godzilla. We got new Shin Ultraman figure here. Got the NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, the standard 6-inch figure, and another vintage Japanese Bandai vinyl. This is the 1993 Godzilla, I think. Yeah, done in slightly bigger size. Really cool figures, all of them. And up here I got as many Bandai vinyls of the Godzilla Final Wars film that I could get my hands on, except for this Hedorah. This Hedorah is not a Bandai vinyl. It's made of like solid plastic, and I'm not sure what brand made it, but it still fits really nicely with this set of figures here. Of course, we got a Godzilla, the Mothra, which is a recent addition to my collection, Rodan. The Gigan, this Gigan is such a beautiful Bandai vinyl. He's really cool. And Anguirus here. Very nice. And up here, rest in peace, Akira Takarada. I have my signed picture by Akira Takarada, who recently passed away, which is so very sad. And I was planning on doing a video on the topic, but really there's not much more to say aside from it's just a very sad thing to hear, because he was basically the last living cast member, or core cast member at least, of the original 1954 Godzilla movie. And he's been awesome in pretty much everything that he's been in, so it's a real shame to see him go. And a shame that I could never meet him. I know a bunch of you guys actually were able to meet him, especially people who actually can go to G-Fest. But, you know, living here in Brisbane, Australia, I don't really get that chance. So I was at least fortunate enough to be able to pick up this signed autograph a while ago. So I'm really proud to have this in my collection. It's one of my prized bits of movie memorabilia. And yeah, I'm going to cherish it. Over here we got the box of the NECA 1984 Godzilla. The figure itself is questionable, but the box art on these things is freaking gorgeous. So I just, you know, thought I'd bring that in and just have that there. And the YMSF Hedorah figure. So this is just the standard coloration, but YMSF put these out constantly. They seem to be selling these in different colors and different types of plastic and all sorts of crazy stuff. And actually recently they've made a couple of different versions, slightly larger, figure of Hedorah, so I'm actually pretty keen to get one of those maybe one day. We'll see. Okay, sliding over here, we got another beautiful Yuji Sakai Godzilla. I think this is the 1994 version, 1993, something like that. Beautiful, beautiful sculpt. Just a great classic looking Heisei Godzilla here. I really dig this thing. Just the face on this thing is done really tastefully. I mean, look at the teeth and the paintwork there and the eyes. Very nice. Here we've got the Diamond Select, I believe it's Diamond Select, Rodan statues. This is the poster version from 1994 Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 movie. And this is really cool. I'm not really a fan of the Heisei era Rodan that much, but just this figure alone is just so impressive for what it is. I really, really dig it. It's really cool. So I'm really happy to have this. It's a nice display piece. And next to it here, we got this sort of special color version Bandai Movie Monster Series vinyl of Hedorah. Again, I got this from the Godzilla store. Really cool figure. At the moment, I'm trying to get my hands on the brand new Movie Monster Series standard color Hedorah, because I think that figure looks really good. I'm not actually sure if it's the same sculpt as this or if it's a different mold. It looked like a different mold from what I've seen, so I'm curious to pair those two once I actually finally get my hands on one of those. But at the moment, HobbyLink Japan are out of stock of them, so I'm waiting patiently. Up here, we got another bit of movie memorabilia. We got Kenpachiro Satsuma, the suit actor who played Godzilla throughout the Heisei era. And he also played Hedorah, I believe, and a couple of other kaiju towards the end of the Showa era. Again, this is just something that I'm going to treasure my collection, because this is Godzilla's signature, technically, you know what I'm saying? The actual dude who played Godzilla signed this. That is unreal. You can see him there with one of the Heisei era suits there. I believe that's the 91 or something like that. And here we just got the NECA King Kong figure. I think this figure is so cool, and I love how it kind of looks like the 33 Kong. I just wish it would look more like the 33 Kong. I wish his legs were shorter and he had sort of more of a broad-shaped body, because he looks a little weird. I have mixed feelings on this guy, but still, I still like him for what he is. And up here, another really recent acquisition to my collection, that being the McFarlane Toys 1933 Kong figure. So this is a very stylized version of Kong, but it's a really cool statue. It's nice and big and it has this really impressive looking base. It's just a really good display piece. As you can see, it really takes up the top of the shelf here very nicely. Very cool. Got a couple more Kongs. Got the little Sega 2021 Kong here with his axe looking really, really nice and menacing. And next to him we have the Rebor Gorilla Z figure, which is, for all intents and purposes, it's literally the Peter Jackson's King Kong from 2005. Pretty much, aside from like the exact placement of scars or whatnot, you can tell the influence was there. This is actually probably the most movie accurate figure of that Kong that we really have on the market at the moment. It's really difficult to get super movie accurate versions of that particular Kong. This is a really great figure for what it is as well. We got the Bandai Movie Monster Series 2021 Mechagodzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. I think this is a really, really good representation of that Mechagodzilla, and I'm eagerly awaiting the Monster Arts one to kind of beat its spot as my favorite 6-inch incarnation of that Mechagodzilla. And next to him with the Playmates Gorosaurus, which is just so bizarre to me that Playmates made a Gorosaurus figure and that I could buy this in Kmart in an actual store. They just had Gorosaurus. It's crazy to me. And my camera's actually running out of battery, so I'm just gonna rush through this. We got Behemoth down here, got a Bandai Gamera figure, the Showa version, Playmates Mechagodzilla just toppled over. And then down at the very bottom, we got this guy there, which is the Sega Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla 2019 version Godzilla. And got this, which is a custom painted and slightly modified version of a bootleg Bandai vinyl of the 1984 Godzilla. I have a video on my channel of how I modified him, because this figure, the bootleg, is a lot cheaper than buying the real Bandai vinyl because they're really expensive and rare. But the bootlegs aren't, well, they're more expensive than buying a new Bandai vinyl, but for this particular figure, this design, they're not that bad. And if you paint them up and modify them yourself, they become really, really good representations of this kaiju, this version of Godzilla. The sculpt is actually really decent. So yeah, check out those videos on my channel about modifying this guy if you're interested. And yeah, that is it. That is my current room setup and my current collection as of late March 2022. So I'm really, really proud of how it's come together. Again, this is nowhere near all of it. I think this is maybe half, even if that. And yeah, I love being surrounded by these things. It is just such a pleasure, and I hope I can continue putting out good videos and sharing my love of this hobby with you guys through this YouTube channel and Instagram and all that good stuff. So again, thank you for checking out this video. If you've actually managed to watch till the end and have bared with all my rambling, thank you so much. My voice is very sore now. I'm quite tired from filming this video. And my phone is about to die, so my camera's about to go off, so I gotta end it now, guys. But yeah, that's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you in one of my future videos. But until then, may all your vinyl be a radiated vinyl. Over and out. Bye.